All right, let's review The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. I have to say, I wonder, am I becoming more of a fan? Maybe fan's too much of a word, but maybe more understanding, having more of an understanding of some contemporary romance. I've never read contemporary romance before last year, and this year I've read a couple and I enjoyed them. So, spoiler alert, I liked this book. Who am I? I used to not want to touch contemporary romance with the 9.5 foot pole, but here we are. Here we are. You know what? There's always room for growth. It's weird how easily you can get to know someone from the traces they leave behind when they go. So, the infamous Flatshare, I don't think that this book, if you're in the contemporary romance space, I know people who are not in, don't read a whole lot of contemporary romance, but they have read the Flatshare and liked it. This book is well known in that sphere. So, in the Flatshare, we have our main female protagonist, Tiff, who is desperate to find a new living situation because her and her boyfriend have broken up for good. Her boyfriend, Justin, who's a jerk. She comes across Leon, our main male protagonist, advertisement for a Flatshare arrangement, and so she contacts him and he accepts her inquiry. So the reason why this is going to work out, allegedly, is because they have opposite work schedules. And at the beginning of this novel, Leon is also in a relationship. And so during the weekends, Leon is hanging out with his girlfriend. And so he's not in his flat on weekends. And he works at night and Tiff works during the day. So they should technically not cross paths. However, hold on, before I go into since they aren't technically supposed to cross paths, they still have to communicate in some way because they're technically roommates. And just the normal goings on when you live with somebody, like cooking and dishes and clothes and clutter being left out, they leave notes for each other around the flat. Some of it, again, about regular household issues to more serious life circumstances. Through these notes, they start to become more and more trusting of each other to share more information about their lives. And through these notes, Tiff and Leon begin to form a deeper connection. Both Tiff and Leon have the habit of sticking with what's comfortable, especially in their relationships or their romantic relationships. So when Tiff and Leon enter into this Flatshare agreement, they both have to confront the things they've been holding on to in order to embrace change so they can move into the new. I'm so glad you're out of that relationship, man. It was about habit, not about love. That was Leon's brother saying this to Leon. But it also applies to Tiff as well, because with her relationship with Justin, she has two friends around who are like, you gotta let Justin go. Mentally and emotionally, you have to let him go. Justin is horrible. But she's been in this cycle with Justin, and so it almost seems like for her, what else is there to do but to go back or unpack why this relationship was so toxic. Also, Leon's relationship in the beginning of this novel, his girlfriend ain't quite right. She a bit controlling. I think. I wasn't a fan. I wasn't supposed to be a fan. I don't think you're supposed to be a fan of her. So both of these have this urge to remain with what's comfortable. And both of these characters, the reason they want to stay in what's familiar is because they have past traumas. I know that trauma is almost like an overly used word in today's society, but actually, Justin, Tiff's ex-boyfriend, was abusive. He was an emotional manipulator, and it takes a lot of time for her to process what actually happened to her. She's in denial. Also, Leon's relationship with his girlfriend at the beginning of this novel that relationship, again, it was comfortable, but a lot of his issues stem from his mother's past relationships. He didn't have a relationship with his father. His mother was in and out of relationships post his father. And couple this with his brother being imprisoned for a crime he did not commit. And so in his brother, he hasn't had any legal success with proving that he did not commit this crime. But there is a situation that pops up where he has one more chance to get out of prison and to have his case reheard. And so Leon is also just exhausted by this emotional roller coaster of believing and hoping that his brother's going to finally get out of prison because he's been wrongfully accused, and then having those hopes dashed again. So he has to come out of the emotional toll that this has taken on him over the emotional toll that this has had on him over the years. So also, as Tiff and Leon begin to learn more about each other, you can't deny there is an undeniable chemistry between these two. Even before they ever meet face to face through these notes, they just have this familiarity and this chemistry with each other. They start to help each other work through each other's issues, and they learn how to let their guards down for each other. And then from there, we see this relationship begin to develop. Of course, there are a few contemporary romance novel tropes in this book. So I'm learning the tropes as I go along. What is one common trope if they have to share a bed, even though they're not sleeping in it at the same time, right? That's a thing that you see, and I think apparently a lot of contemporary romance novels. There are some things here or there where you're like, oh, this was specifically set up for this particular, stereotypical situation to happen. But I guess that's part of its charm. Some of this familiarity. I know that people who are big fans of contemporary romance have particular tropes that they either really like or really dislike. And when it hits, it hits. When it's bad, it's bad. But I think that's just part of the fun of reading contemporary romance. You know that there's going to be this slight cheesiness to it that some authors really know how to nail, and others you're like. And I think that any of the things that happen in this novel that are typical rom-com or contemporary romance, Beth O'Leary does really, really well in this novel, so that it doesn't feel like a super cheesy, cliche Hallmark movie, even though some of the plot turns are predictable. Overall, I found this to be an enjoyable read, honestly. Obviously, from what I said at the beginning of the video, it was just fun. It was just one of those novels that was fun and quick to read. And there were also elements of the novel that I felt like were relatable because, again, these characters are in their 30s. I said this about people we meet on vacation. It's kind of nice to read about 30-somethings versus teenagers and 20-somethings when you're, I'm not there, right? I'm older. So it's nice to see these characters go through work life and not just, I'm just entering my career. No, they've been working for a while. And so it's nice to see those kind of dynamics. Also, I like that O'Leary has other themes in this novel that are outside of Tiff and Leon's developing relationship. Again, we have workplace dynamics, and we have two characters who have their own professional areas of expertise. Leon is a nurse, and Tiff works in publishing, so they are both quite good at what they do. There's discussions of abusive relationships and how to work through those so that you can move on with your life. And also how to take personal responsibility for holding on to things for too long. There has to be a point when you're like, I have to work through this, or I'm going to actually end up hindering myself. My favorite relationship in this book was not Tiff and Leon. It was Leon and his brother. That relationship was so realistic and funny. Leon's brother is a card. I love that dynamic. Very realistic sibling relationship. And endearing. They have a good relationship. And it was a good way for Beth O'Leary to use this really healthy male relationship between these two brothers to bring in some comedic banter. This book does alternate chapters between Leon and Tiff's points of view, which helps the reader get a better idea of what's going on internally with both of these characters, especially as their relationship and events tend to progress. I will say that both of their chapters have slightly different writing styles. So, of course, because Tiff works in publishing and she's editing people's, not books, whatever, to be published and working on books, she has a more eloquent way of speaking, where Leon's chapters, the writing is short, succinct. It's often written in fragments versus long prose. And so I know that some readers in reviews that I've come across have critiqued that. They didn't like it. They felt that Leon's sections felt really choppy. And they are choppy in the style of the writing, but it didn't personally bother me. Leon is a man of few words. And even in the notes that he leaves Tiff around the flat, he's very succinct and to the point. But it did take me a little bit of time to adjust to in the beginning to get the different tones of between the two. But it didn't really bother me too much because, he kind of reminds me, the writing style reminds me of my own brother. Just short and to the point. No, not a whole, it's not flowery. Just, you ask a question, you're going to get a direct answer. I'm cool with that. Overall, I rated this book a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed it. I could see myself rereading this again when I just want something that's familiar, funny, and light. I do plan to read maybe some of her other novels. I've heard people like The Switch. But I know people who like The Switch and then they read some of her other novels and they were like, eh. But I'll read The Switch, and if I feel like reading some of the others, why not, right? I'm not reading them to have my socks knocked off. I'm reading them for the sake of just reading for fun. So, that is all. Have you read The Flatshare? Did you like it? Did it surprise you like it surprised me? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to follow me on Instagram, where I get up to more bookish shenanigans. All of my book reviews get posted there first. YouTube is actually way, way behind Instagram because I'm able to type up my reviews way sooner than I'm able to sit down and record them, because I only sit down and record once a month. So if you want to see a more up-to-date list of what I'm reading or what I'm currently reviewing, Instagram is where to go. With that, I will sign off and see you in the next one.